Hello folks, I'm Cooper, and today on Cooking with Cleavers, I'll be discussing this Zhen 8-inch light cleaver, as they would describe it, but it is a piandao or slicing cleaver made by Zhen Knives. Zhen Knives is a Taiwanese-based company that uses Japanese steels to make their knives. They're known for making a lot of Japanese-style knives at significantly lower prices. This Zhen light slicer can be found on Amazon for $65. It has a smaller version and a 6.5-inch blade, which is like $55, and then a 7-inch version and a different blade profile that looks more similar to this curved slicing cleaver. I think that 7-inch curved slicing cleaver is about $55 or $60, also on Amazon. But this Zhen knife is made from a VG10 steel. VG10 steel is a Japanese-made steel that's a good quality steel. It's not a super steel or the best steel around anymore, but it is a good steel for less expensive cooking knives. Unless you want to get into a few $100s or more, VG10 steel is a good option. So it has a VG10 steel core with cladding on the sides of a lower quality steel. That means this is a layered steel, so the center of the edge, the actual part that cuts food, is made from the higher quality VG10, and then on the sides of that and the bulk of this large surface of a blade is cheaper steel, which, I mean, some people will say it's used to make the knife more durable or less brittle, but it's really just there, especially in this case, to save the manufacturer money and potentially make manufacturing a little bit easier, working with softer, easier to work with metals. So on this knife, you'll notice that it has a very large flat face, common to most Chinese slicing knives. It has a nice, they've rounded out the very tip of the blade, which is nice. Most others don't do that, so it's more of a point that can get caught on things, especially like sponges or rags when you're washing off your knife afterwards. It has a TP handle. I have no idea what that stands for, but it's a rubberized handle around a full tang metal grip or handle, and a nice flat base on the bottom base plate. So if you're interested in using your knife to smash things, especially like garlic, having an actual flat piece of stainless steel metal there is pretty handy, and a nice addition that would be beneficial on multiple other knives. For example, this Maestro modified slicing cleaver has a very strange bit here that's designed for probably aesthetics, but if they'd flattened that out, it could also be used to smash into things more efficiently. So good job, Zhen, on making that flat-faced. The rubberized handle is also pretty comfortable. The way they attach the handle to the blade of this knife, they add a thicker bolster to attempt to make that transition more comfortable. On some knives, getting into Chinese cleavers, oftentimes you'll just have a handle put right into the blade, which some people find unpleasant. I think I prefer a handle that just goes straight into a blade without a thicker bolster type thing for the way I use it, because this bit here ends up being a little bit sharp as I'm holding it, because I typically have my finger against it at a slight angle rather than straight up into that more flattened out area. I think they probably intended it to be held with a finger that goes flat against that area rather than at a slight angle. So if you can hold it with a flat finger there, it's probably more comfortable, but the way I hold it, my finger always ends up biting at it with a slight angle. So not my favorite thing there. But the handle here, I think they tried to make it more westernized of a handle. And honestly, this whole knife, I think they tried to take the Chinese slicing cleaver and make it more friendly to a Western audience. It's most noticeable in the belly of this slicing cleaver. It noticeably rocks, whereas other slicing cleavers, like this Shibaizuo, does not rock. It is flat, or it has a flat bit in the front with a very slight belly and a prominent flat bit at the back. On this Zhen knife, there's no flat bit whatsoever. I think the design idea behind that is to make this more friendly to Western cooks who are used to a Western chef's knife which has no flat on it and uses primarily a roll or a rock chop, similar to this motion of knife. So having a slight belly on this knife may make it more comfortable for people not accustomed to a push cut or a chop cut. That is the primary chopping motions used for Chinese slicing cleavers. When you have a slicing cleaver, a good flat-bellied slicing cleaver, there's no way to do rocking motions that are comfortable and that won't damage your knife. I still don't recommend using this knife for rock chopping because the tip of the blade will dig into your cutting board and or bend / chip off if you're trying to do significant rocking motions. Tips on Chinese slicing cleavers are not well supported for a rocking type motion because they're intended for a chopping or a push cut motion. So honestly, I don't really care for this belly in the slightest. It makes chopping through larger amounts of things more inconvenient because when you chop down, you have to noticeably rock back and forth a little bit and or slide back and forth along the cutting board to be able to make sure you get completely through any food item. That's especially noticeable in meats like chicken. It's less enjoyable to cut through large amounts of chicken with this than with my other Chinese slicing cleavers. But again, if you're a Western person who's only ever used a Western chef's knife with rock cutting, that slight bit of belly may help you transition better to a Chinese slicing cleaver. The Zhen Chinese slicing cleaver comes in a nice high gloss cardboard box. On the box it says 日本特级三合钢, which means, I might have messed up a character in there, but it means Japanese 3-layer steel, which, as I said before, is the VG10 core with a cheaper stainless steel cladding on the outside. It also has Zhen, the character, and Zhen written down there. And then 6.5 slicer. If you get the 8-inch slicer, I got this in Taiwan, so they may have different packaging for the American market. However, it may also come saying 6.5 slicer. Just know that that doesn't mean it's the 6.5 inch one. In Taiwan and China, they have another measurement that they go by. All of the knives that I get in Taiwan are marketed in the Shi, I think, measuring system, and it's a 6.5 in that system. But that makes it 196 millimeters long and about 7 3/4 inches. So it's not actually 8 inches, but 7 3/4 inches long, with a blade height of about 4 inches, which is about 100 millimeters. The weight of this knife comes out to 366 grams or 12.92 ounces. So it's not the lightest knife in its size group. Another knife that's similar in length is this CCK 1912. It comes in at 9.55 ounces with 271 grams. So significantly lighter in a similar length package for a CCK, but a CCK will be a little bit more expensive. So there's weight. For our blade width, we'll pull out some caliper. It comes in at 1.8 millimeters, and that's consistent along the entire blade. That'll taper down relatively well after that midpoint in the blade. So about half of the blade maintains that thickness, and then it starts tapering down. This blade has an anti-stick finish on it. Here we have a close-up on the blade and edge of the Zhen knife. Out of the box, it was an okay edge. It benefits a lot from sharpening yourself. Here along the blade, it has a large segment of anti-stick surfacing that's incredibly rough. It almost feels like somebody attached fabric or something to this blade. Also, you can tell right along the edge of that there's a layer that's visible that stretches off into the steel, and that creates a bit of a shelf along the steel. Not a drastic shelf, but a little bit of one. And the combination of that shelf and this rather rough anti-stick surface increases the friction of cutting with this knife. The rest of the blade is a fairly high polished blade. It makes things like fingerprints very obvious. But outside of that, you can see a little bit of wear and tear along this anti-slip or this anti-stick surface, so this may wear off. I'm not very impressed by this anti-stick surface, and I think Zhen would have done better to just have a flat surfaced knife. Honestly, the surface doesn't help much in reducing the sticking of various foods like potatoes and the like. Still stick to this blade. It doesn't make anything fall off magically. It may potentially reduce some sticking force, but I haven't noticed any real benefit that offsets the annoyance of having the extra friction from this applied surface. Overall, this Zhen knife is an okay knife. I think for the money, I would prefer to get something else like a Shibaizuo TP03-1. The Shibaizuo is a little bit thicker and heavier, but you can also get a Shibaizuo on Amazon. On Amazon, its market, there's not this exact knife, but a knife with the same blade but with a wood handle. That's the F208-1 or -2. That would be my preferred knife. So it's a good option for a more budget conscious choice. I think this is about $45 for either this a longer size or the shorter size available on Amazon. Also, if you want to go up a little bit in price to around the $85 to $90 mark, you can get a CCK stainless steel small slicer. I think this Zhen knife is probably best for people who've never used a Chinese slicing cleaver and don't really like a push cut or a chop cut yet. This still provides a little bit of room for rocking your knife a little bit. Outside of that, I don't see much purpose in this particular slicing cleaver. Earlier, I did note that there's another blade profile of the Zhen knife. This is not a Zhen knife, but it's the same blade profile as the other option, so it's a curved slicing cleaver. That could be also a better option for somebody who prefers a rock or chop, so rolling the blade across through an item. Zhen has a 7-inch version of a knife similar to this blade profile, also made with VG10 steel in the same construction as this one, with the same handle as this one. So there you go. Here's the Zhen 8-inch light slicer. If you're interested in getting one, I'll put a link to Amazon. I have no affiliate links or anything like that, so I don't get anything out of it. But you can get one on Amazon. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share. If you have any questions, throw those down in the comment section. And if you're interested in learning more about Chinese slicing cleavers and hearing more reviews, please stay tuned by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Thank you very much.